to start with the president's escalation of the trade war with China. Are you worried that this is going to push the United States economy into a recession?
I am very concerned about this trade war. It's certainly hurting our economy. The way the president's handling these trade negotiations is not in our economic interest. It's clear that China has violated trade rules, but the United States has isolated ourselves with our traditional trading partners. So it's just the U.S. versus China rather than having the market economies, the major market economies on our side. Going into the G7, it'd be good to have the G7 leaders on our side dealing with China. I doubt if we will.
Yeah, I mean, that may speak to my next question that I have, which is that you have a lot of Democrats who actually agree with the president on the fact that China needs to be confronted when it comes to some of their trade practices, intellectual property, for instance. How would you want to see the president take on China without harming the economy?
Brianna, you're right. There's major concern about what China is doing on the economic front. We need to work with our traditional market trading partners to isolate China rather than isolate the United States. When the president led with tariffs against Canada and Europe on steel and aluminum, he alienated our traditional partners. He used the national security waiver to impose those tariffs, which was ridiculous. Canada does not oppose national security risks to the United States. So what the president should have done is worked with our market economy partners to develop a strategy to confront China. Instead, he led with the U.S., and we do not have the support of our traditional partners.
The president also tweeted today, who is our bigger enemy, Jay Powell, who's the Fed chairman, or Chairman Xi? So when you look at that, and he's likening the chairman of the Federal Reserve to really an enemy of the United States, how do you react?
Well, you know, this is so disturbing. The Federal Reserve is set up to be independent from the president for good reason, and it served this nation extremely well and provides confidence globally about the American economy, that it won't be subject just to a political whim of a president or a Congress, that the Federal Reserve System is there as a balance. The president has really demeaned that independence. To compare the Federal Reserve Chairman with the president of China is ridiculous, and it's offensive to our economy and to our democracy.
I know you've seen the news about Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We just learned that she has been treated once again for pancreatic cancer. She's said in the past that she's going to continue working if she can go full steam. Do you worry that she may have to retire before the end of President Trump's term, and what that would mean?
Well, Justice Ginsburg is a fighter. She's a fighter on the court. She's a fighter in regards to her own personal health. She's a giant on the Supreme Court. We need her to be on that court. She's great in her interpretations of cases that she has had a major impact on. She's a great balance on the court. I'm convinced that she will continue to fight as long as she possibly can. And I think we all wish her well and hope that she'll be strong and can stay on the bench for many years.
Let's talk Russia, because after the U.S. tested this new type of cruise missile that would have been banned in the INF nuclear pact, were it still in place, Vladimir Putin says he's ordering his military to develop new weapons of their own. Do you think we're looking at another Cold War?
Well, here we go again. You know, clearly Russia violated the INF nuclear treaty. They did. But the way President Trump handled that, he has started now potentially an arms race. That is not in the U.S. interest. It's not in Russia's interest, and certainly not in the world security interest. We need to continue, as we did with New START, to find ways that we can reduce the nuclear forces in the world, not increase them, and give other countries excuses to start in the arms race. So no, I think the president's handled this wrong. Clearly Russia provoked us, and the president fell into that trap, now allowing Russia to go forward with more testing.
Senator Ben Cardin, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great weekend.